Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cowboys Report, your number one source for all things Dallas Cowboys. We've got a massive episode lined up for you today, packed with breaking news and exclusive insights straight from the heart of the franchise. If you're a Cowboys fan, you're going to want to stick around for every second of this, because we're diving deep into everything quarterback Dak Prescott had to say at his annual youth football camp. From his health and recovery to his thoughts on the explosive new wide receiver duo of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, Dak dropped some serious knowledge that has Cowboys Nation buzzing with excitement. But before we get into the juicy details, let's set the stage. We're in the middle of an all-out showdown with other chat sports channels, and while we're leading the pack right now, the competition, especially from those Eagles and Raiders reports, is creeping up fast. So, if you're watching and you're all about that Cowboys pride, do us a solid, smash that like button, drop a comment, and let's show the rest of the sports world who runs this game. Let's keep the Cowboys report at the top, where we belong. Now let's get to the main event, Dak Prescott. The man, the myth, the leader of America's team. He's been the talk of the town, and for good reason. At his youth football camp, Dak opened up about a ton of topics that have Cowboys fans on the edge of their seats. First and foremost, let's talk about the question on everyone's mind, his health. After a roller coaster of an offseason filled with speculation and misinformation about his recovery from a hamstring injury, Dak set the record straight. In his own words, he said, "I'm as healthy as I'll ever be. I'll be full go for camp." That's right, folks, full go. Dak made it crystal clear that he's ready to hit the ground running when training camp kicks off. Now, he did mention that he's still waiting for the official green light from the team doctors for contact, but he brushed that off as a mere formality. This is huge news for Cowboys fans who've been holding their breath, especially after some wild reports from major outlets like ESPN threw out recovery timelines as long as 8 months. 8 months. Can you believe that? Dak shut that noise down, saying he could have suited up for a real game weeks ago if push came to shove. That's the kind of confidence we love to hear from our franchise quarterback. But let's keep it real for a second. As much as we love Dak's optimism, and as much as we trust his word, there's always going to be a little voice in the back of our heads as Cowboys fans. Injuries have been the dark cloud hanging over Dak's career for years now. It's not just this hamstring issue, it's the ankle, the shoulder, the calf, you name it. Different injuries, different seasons, but the pattern is undeniable. And now that Dak is over 30, the stakes are even higher. The human body doesn't bounce back like it did when he was a 23-year-old rookie taking the league by storm. Cowboys Nation needs Dak to be 100%, not 90%, not 80%, but the full-on MVP-level Dak Prescott we saw in 2023 before injuries slowed him down. That's the guy who is throwing darts, making defenses look silly, and leading this team with the kind of swagger that makes you believe a Super Bowl run is possible. Anything less than that, and the Cowboys could be in for a rough ride. The margin for error in the NFC is razor thin, with teams like the Eagles, 49ers, and even the up-and-coming Commanders ready to pounce on any weakness. Now, here's where things get interesting. What happens if Dak isn't at his peak? Sure, there's always the hope that a young quarterback like rookie Milton could step up and show some flashes of brilliance. Maybe, just maybe, he develops into a reliable backup or even a future starter, kind of like how Dak himself took over from Tony Romo back in the day. That transition was a fairy tale for Cowboys fans, a rookie coming out of nowhere to lead the team to a 13-3 record. But let's not kid ourselves. Banking on Milton to be the next Dak Prescott is a pipe dream, not a plan. The real strategy is simple. Protect Dak at all costs. Keep him upright, keep him healthy, and let him do what he does best, cook. That's the only way this team has a shot at contending for a championship in 2025. The Cowboys front office, coaching staff, and offensive line need to make it their mission to ensure Dak has the time and space to operate. No excuses, no half measures. This is a make-or-break year, and it all starts with number 4 under center. But Doc's offseason hasn't just been about rehab and recovery. Oh no, he's been putting in work on and off the field, and it's the kind of work that gets you excited about the future of this team. One of the biggest highlights from his youth camp was hearing about his annual skill position getaway in Georgia. This has become a tradition for the Cowboys' offensive stars, and let me tell you, it's more than just a team-building exercise. Doc brought together the who's who of the Cowboys' offense: CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, and even some of the guys lower on the depth chart. They weren't just out there running routes and working on timing drills, though they did plenty of that. This was about building something deeper: culture, chemistry, and a shared mindset. Doc described the energy as electric, with players not just showing up but showing out. They dove into the why behind what they do, talking about the mental side of the game, leadership, and what it takes to win at the highest level. This wasn't some fluffy team bonding retreat with trust falls and campfires. This was a group of elite athletes putting in the work to become a cohesive unit, away from the cameras, away from the spotlight, just ball players grinding together. What really stood out was how Doc emphasized the off-field connections being made. They didn't just train together, they hung out, talked ball, and even brought in former military members to speak about leadership, adversity, and the mentality it takes to overcome challenges. Think about that for a second. You've got a group of NFL players, some of the most talented athletes in the world, sitting down to listen to stories about grit, sacrifice, and teamwork from people who faced life-and-death situations. That's the kind of perspective that can transform a locker room. Doc said those conversations hit home, especially for a team with championship aspirations. It's not just about X's and O's, it's about building a brotherhood that can weather the storms of an NFL season. When the going gets tough in December and January, those bonds are what keep a team together. And if anyone can foster that kind of culture, it's Dak Prescott. He's not just the quarterback, he's the heart and soul of this team, the guy who sets the tone in the huddle, in the locker room, and even on a retreat in Georgia. Now, let's talk about the part that's got Cowboys fans absolutely hyped: Doc's thoughts on his new wide receiver duo, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. When Doc started talking about these two, you could hear the excitement in his voice. He was practically glowing, and for good reason. This tandem has the potential to be something special, maybe even the best receiver duo Doc has ever had. That's a bold statement when you consider the talent he's thrown to over the years, from Dez Bryant to Amari Cooper. But hear me out, CeeDee Lamb is a superstar in his prime, and George Pickens is a raw, explosive talent who could be on the verge of a breakout. Doc described watching OT a film with these two, and he couldn't stop raving about their chemistry. He mentioned one play where the ball was in the air, and one of them was already celebrating before the catch was even made. That's not just skill, that's trust, anticipation, and a connection that can't be taught. That's the kind of magic that turns a good offense into a great one. Let's break it down. CeeDee Lamb is no longer the young kid splitting targets with Amari Cooper. He's evolved into a complete receiver, stronger, faster, more polished, and a true leader on this team. He's the kind of player who can take over a game, whether it's a quick slant for a first down or a deep ball for a touchdown. Then you've got George Pickens, who brings a completely different flavor to the table. He's a physical freak, a vertical threat with raw explosiveness that makes defensive backs sweat. Unlike Cooper, who was more of a technician, Pickens is a bully on the field, using his size and athleticism to dominate. If the Cowboys' coaching staff can harness that potential and get him to play within their system, this duo could be one of the most dangerous in the NFL. Doc certainly thinks so, he said. It's not going to be hard for me. I just need to get the ball near him and let him be George Pickens. That's the ultimate quarterback compliment, trusting your receiver to make plays even when the throw isn't perfect. Now, don't get me wrong, Pickens still has some growing up to do. You don't just shake off a reputation overnight. especially when you've had issues under a coach like Mike Tomlin, who's one of the best in the business at building culture. But Dallas is a fresh start for Pickens, and with steady influences like Dak and CeeDee Lamb around him, there's every reason to believe he can turn the corner. Dak is all in on him, raving about his ability to get separation and make contested catches. If Pickens can buy into the Cowboys' system and channel that raw talent, the sky's the limit. Imagine a scenario where Lamb is drawing double coverage and Pickens is blowing past corners for deep balls. Or Pickens is bullying defenders in the red zone while Lamb is slicing through zones underneath. That's the kind of nightmare matchup that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. Speaking of CeeDee Lamb, Dak also had some fascinating insights about how he's thriving now that his contract drama is behind him. Last season, the uncertainty of negotiations was like a dark cloud hanging over him. He wanted to stay locked in, but it's hard to ignore that kind of distraction. This year, with a new deal in place, Lamb is a different player. Dak said his energy is through the roof, his leadership is shining, and his growth is undeniable. That's exactly what the Cowboys need, a true WR1 who's ready to lead by example. But it's also a reminder of a lesson the Cowboys' front office needs to learn. Don't let contract drama fester. We've seen it too many times, players like Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, and even Dak himself dealing with prolonged negotiations that create tension and distract from the ultimate goal. Right now, all eyes are on Micah Parsons. The Cowboys can't afford to let another superstar deal drag on and create a circus. Pay the man, lock him up, and keep the focus on football. It's not rocket science. So where does this leave us, Cowboys fans? The pieces are coming together. Dak Prescott is healthy, confident, and ready to lead. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are forming a dynamic duo that could light up scoreboards across the NFL. The offense is building chemistry, from the stars to the role players, and Dak's leadership is setting the tone for a team with big aspirations. But there are still questions. Can Dak stay healthy for a full season? Can Pickens put the maturity concerns behind him and become a true professional? Can the Cowboys coaching staff maximize this talent and avoid the pitfalls of past seasons? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, this team is building something special. Whether it's a championship contender or a fragile house of cards, it all hinges on Dak Prescott and the culture he's fostering. As we look ahead to training camp, the Cowboys are in a fascinating position. On one hand, there's so much to be excited about. Dak's health, the Lamb-Pickens connection, the team chemistry, it's all trending in the right direction. But there's also a sense of urgency. The NFC is stacked, and the Cowboys can't afford to slip up. They've got to hit the ground running in camp, fine-tune the offense, and make sure everyone is on the same page. For Dak, it's about proving he can still be the guy who was in the MVP conversation in 2023. For Lamb, it's about cementing his status as one of the league's premier receivers. For Pickens, it's about showing he can live up to his immense potential. And for the team as a whole, it's about taking that next step and finally getting over the hump in the playoffs. So, Cowboys fans, where do you stand right now? Are you all in on this Lamb-Pickens duo? Do you trust that Dak can stay healthy and lead this team to the promised land? Is this the year the Cowboys offense finally becomes elite again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And while you're at it, let's rank Lamb and Pickens among the NFL's top receiver duos. Are they up there with the likes of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? A. J. Brown and Devonta Smith? Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? Let's start the debate. Oh, and don't forget to hit that like button to help us crush the competition. We're marching toward 1,000 subscribers, and we need your support to get there. This is the Dallas Cowboys Today News, and we're just getting started. The 2025 season is right around the corner, and with Dak Prescott at the helm, anything is possible. Let's ride, Cowboys Nation.